From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Ahmed Ramadan. A federal judge blocked Trump's plan to strip visas from international students involved in pro-Palestine protests, citing legal concerns and ongoing court challenges. This and more on today's show. The Trump administration has revoked Harvard University's certification to enroll international students, effective immediately. In response, Harvard has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration for blocking it from accepting foreign students. The U.S. government has also terminated $60 million in federal grants and frozen more than $2.2 billion in funding for Harvard. In response, Harvard called the move unlawful and retaliatory, vowing to protect its international scholars. Harvard President Alan Garber said the university will use $250 million of its own funds to support research. He has filed a lawsuit against the administration, citing First Amendment violations. The decision could impact thousands of students from more than 140 countries. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from ending the legal status of international students in the U.S. The ruling follows a wave of deportation cases involving students who joined pro-Palestine campus rallies. Judge Jeffrey White's order stops arrests, detentions, and student and exchange visitor information system record terminations nationwide, while a legal challenge is underway. The court said the government's actions had wreaked havoc on non-immigrant students across the country. The case gained traction after the detention of Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil. He was targeted after leading campus protests last year, despite being a legal resident married to a U.S. citizen. Khalil has been held in Louisiana since March, far from his New York home. The ruling protects students from legal retaliation for protest participation, but still allows arrests for violent crimes. Legal battles over the Trump policy continue in court. The Supreme Court has blocked the creation of the country's first taxpayer-funded religious charter school in Oklahoma. In a split decision, the justices upheld a lower court ruling that stopped the Catholic Archdiocese of Oklahoma City and the Diocese of Tulsa from launching St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual School. The lower court found the school would violate the Constitution's First Amendment by blurring the line between church and state. It ruled the school, being publicly funded, would essentially act as a state-run institution and illegally promote religion by requiring students to take part in religious activities and classes. Justice Amy Coney Barrett recused herself due to her ties with Notre Dame, which represents the school's backers. St. Isidore was to be from kindergarten to grade 12 virtual school and could have cost taxpayers $25 million in 5 years. The decision preserves the constitutional separation of church and state in public education. The Trump administration is again seeking to end key protections for immigrant children in U.S. custody. In a new court filing, the Justice Department called for the termination of the Flores Settlement Agreement, the 1997 legal accord that limits child detention time and guarantees access to food, water, and clean clothing. Officials argue the agreement encourages illegal border crossings and blocks effective deportations. Experts say the move shows a continued disregard for vulnerable children. Legal and human rights groups called the push a bid to enrich private detention firms while denying children basic care. This is not the first attempt by President Donald Trump to end it. In 2019, he attempted the same but was blocked by courts. Even under former President Joe Biden, some protections were eased, but Flores still applies to immigration agencies. The agreement was born out of a 1980s lawsuit over abuse of detained migrant children. Recent reports show continued violations, including denial of sanitation, food, and medical care at border camps. In a controversial move, the Republicans in the U.S. House have passed a sweeping bill that could strip health coverage from nearly 14 million Americans. The bill aims to expand 2017 tax cuts and raise the debt ceiling by $4 trillion, but at a steep cost. It proposes deep cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act and Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. An earlier review by the Congressional Budget Office warned that 13.7 million people could lose their insurance. Low-income seniors, people with disabilities, and vulnerable groups such as immigrants and women could face higher costs, fewer services, and reduced access to care. The bill also eliminates nursing home staffing rules and cuts financial help for older Americans. Supporters claim tax breaks will balance the damage, but experts say the poorest will suffer the most. The bill now heads to the Senate, where critics urge lawmakers to reject what they call a dangerous attack on healthcare and economic security. Bread returns to part of Gaza after 81-day blockade, but aid remains limited. WFP warns famine looms without more deliveries. This and more coming up next. Welcome back. For the first time in nearly 3 months, bread is back on shelves in parts of Gaza. A bakery in Deir al-Balah reopened on Thursday after 81 days of Israeli blockade. The World Food Programme supported the effort following the arrival of flour from incoming aid trucks. Gaza's media office says 87 aid trucks entered through the Karim Shalom crossing, delivering flour, food, and children's nutrition supplements. However, no trucks reached Gaza City or the north due to Israeli restrictions at the Natrizim corridor. The World Food Programme had shut down all 25 of its Gaza-supported bakeries in April due to flour and fuel shortages. Officials say Gaza needs at least 500 aid trucks daily to stave off famine, plus 50 fuel trucks. More than 60 Palestinians were killed or reported missing and 185 wounded in fresh Israeli attacks across Gaza on Friday. In southern Khan Yunis, 8 people were killed, 7 of them children, in a strike on a family home. A separate bombing in eastern Khan Yunis killed 11, while 2 siblings died in another strike. Israeli drones and missiles also pounded central Gaza's Deir al-Balah, killing 10 and wounding many. When people rushed to help the injured, Israeli forces struck again. A strike near a hospital set fire to a medical warehouse. Rescue workers were blocked from responding. The health ministry says 29 children and elderly people who have died in recent days in Gaza have been registered as starvation-related deaths. More than 900 figures from the cinema world have signed an open letter denouncing genocide in Gaza. The list of signatories includes Hollywood celebrities Mark Ruffalo, Richard Gere, and Susan Sarandon. Hamas has welcomed the joint statement issued by 80 countries, which affirmed Gaza is facing the worst humanitarian crisis. Israel's genocide has killed more than 64,000 Palestinians and wounded 122,197 since October 2023. India and Pakistan are at odds over the agenda for any future peace talks despite a sustained ceasefire. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi told a rally in Rajasthan that any talks with Islamabad would only focus on custody of Pakistan-administered Kashmir. He ruled out discussions on trade or other issues. In contrast, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif listed the issues of Jammu and Kashmir, water sharing, trade, and terrorism as key topics for dialogue. Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar confirmed the ceasefire continues with military officials from both sides in contact. He said Pakistan is open to talks, but India must show willingness. This comes after the most serious military escalation in years. India struck targets inside Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir on May 6, followed by Pakistani retaliatory strikes on May 10th. President Donald Trump later announced Washington had brokered a ceasefire between the two nuclear-armed countries. Talks are expected, but no date or venue has been confirmed. In France, Muslim citizens say they increasingly feel under suspicion. The French Council of the Muslim Faith, or CFCM, warns that Muslims face rising fear and stigma. This follows the leak of a government-commissioned report regarding what it calls political Islamism and the Muslim Brotherhood. The CFCM says vague terms in the report, such as Islamist entryism, are stirring up public confusion and unfairly targeting Muslim communities. The group fears the report's findings could wrongly implicate mosques, associations, and individuals, deepening public mistrust. It urges French authorities to fight extremism based on rigorous contextualized data, not generalized accusations. It also warns that current rhetoric risks feeding hate, violence, and attacks on Muslim places of worship. CFCM called for clearer definitions and greater discernment from officials. The Islamic Development Bank Group has wrapped up its annual meeting in Algeria, sealing more than $5 billion in development deals. Held in Algiers, the four-day summit attracted more than 4,000 delegates from 89 countries. The bank signed more than 70 agreements with 26 member nations and regional bodies, focusing on sectors vital for long-term development. This year's theme was diversifying economies, enriching lives. ISDB President Mohammed Al-Jasir unveiled a strategic 10-year framework built on productivity, resilience, sustainability, and inclusion. He said the bank, rooted in Islamic values, supports national-led development and fosters cross-country knowledge sharing. The ISDB, which serves nearly a quarter of the global population, aims to become a global hub for Islamic economics and finance. The meeting also paved the way for new partnerships and innovative collaboration across the Muslim world. Next year's ISDB annual gathering will be held in Azerbaijan. Trees may soon help save lives from volcanic eruptions thanks to satellites. NASA and the Smithsonian have teamed up to study how trees react before a volcano erupts. When magma rises, it releases carbon dioxide. Trees absorb this gas and become unusually green, an early warning sign that satellites like NASA's Landsat 8 can detect. This greening effect, seen from space, could be a breakthrough. It gives scientists a visible clue that volcanic activity is building before more dangerous gases like sulfur dioxide show up. Volcanologists say it is safer and more reliable method than direct on-site measurements, which are often risky. The method was tested successfully near Italy's Mount Etna and the Mayon volcano in Philippines, helping prompt early evacuations. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.